People keep looking to us to see what action we're taking, what we do, not what we say. And I think that is included in this bill. And actually, Mr. Speaker, when you look at this bill, it's 3 pages long. It's pretty thin bill. And in fact, despite what we've all been talking about here now for several at-bats with this bill, we're now in Committee of the Whole, all this bill says it's going to do is put together or establish a board or a committee or a council or something, or authorize a provincial agency, and they can, appoint other board members onto it, and that they will get additional powers and duties to function that they need to function to carry out the purposes of this Act. And then there's a long mandate that this board is supposed to look at and accomplish and then report back. So that's all this Competitiveness Act is. For all the other things we've talked about here, if you actually read the Act, all it's doing is establishing a council. It's given itself a mandate to accelerate the implementation of Government of Alberta initiatives to increase competitiveness. And my little note on the side is, how? Well, I didn't hear that get answered. Share a strategy, develop a benchmark, report publicly, communicate. But these are not action words. They're talky words. They're say words, say in quotes there, not doing words. And then there's things like develop strategies and initiatives to encourage innovation and develop and adopt technology. Again, and you run through that list of things. Increase Alberta's competitiveness and the productivity of individual economic sectors. How? There's almost no detail in this. And, earlier today I introduced the man who is the manager of my constituency office, and I first met him when I went to a university class, a political science class, and talked to them. And I talked about the fact that, all of the bills that were coming forward now were shell bills. There was no detail in them. There was nothing in there that you could really make the government stick to, because it basically authorized the Lieutenant Governor and Council, which is really the Cabinet, to do whatever they wanted, and then gave them the power to make regulations to do whatever they want to change it. And that means that it doesn't come back into this Assembly. It's not talked about ever again in here. They have no obligation to see. The way it works is that whatever's done by this Assembly has to be undone by this Assembly. But all of the bills that we look at now are 2 and 3 pages long, with the exception of the Elections Act, but that's coming until Bill 7, and then it's humongous. But they're 2 or 3 pages long, and they basically, empower the Lieutenant Governor in Council or empower the Minister as assigned by the Alberta Act to carry on and do whatever they want. And nothing comes back before this House. So soon our sittings get less and shorter and shorter and shorter because there's no business that's required to come back before this House. It just gets done by the government. And, do they do that publicly? Well, no. They go behind closed doors. So to me, this is really a #1 rhetoric bill. It's allowed the government to give us a lot of rhetoric about what they think competition is or what it should be. Frankly, it's allowed us to stand up and talk about what we think it should be, although I think my argument was particularly potent and pithy, and I'm expecting that it will be carried through, because I was darn good in making my arguments. But that is the fault of this bill. I just don't see the inspiration. I see this to me represents the government scrambling to try and find its way and to try and figure out how to deliver something. And really, if they, I don't think this is going to help them in the end. And I'm disappointed that this was the best they could do for a flagship bill. Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker.